Ladies and gentlemen, this is your WWE Week in Review. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Kyle Johnson. Thank you so much for stopping by. And welcome to my new weekly series here on this channel. Over the last several weeks, I've been uploading once a week, but we are now updating. We are going to upload twice a week, once on every Sunday, to look at the past week of WWE in a review. In this video, we are going to look at the landscape of WWE after this past week. We're going to talk about everything noteworthy that happened over this past week across Raw and SmackDown. We're going to talk about some of the highs. We're going to talk about some of the lows and everything in between. So if you enjoy this video and more content like it, be sure to give me a subscribe. Tap that little bell for notifications because I will be at you every single week, twice a week now, with brand new content. And let me know if you enjoy this because I would be more than happy to make it a regular series on this channel. Let's get into it. Let's start off with Monday Night Raw this past week because we had a few noteworthy things happen on this show. Let's start with, first and foremost, the Raw Tag Team division. The Usos, who got a new theme song and a new entrance, they regained their tag team identity, took on the Vision for the World Tag Team titles. And in that match, IShowSpeed got involved. LA Knight got involved. IShowSpeed hit LA Knight with the Nux, which would end up costing the Usos the tag team titles, and the Vision would become your new tag team champions. And it looks as though we are getting a six-man tag team match at WrestleMania, the Vision and IShowSpeed against the Usos and LA Knight. Which, to be perfectly honest, I don't mind that much. I think that's fine. We also had a clip on social media go viral this week from IShowSpeed's live stream where LA Knight crashed his live stream and attacked him midstream and threw IShowSpeed into his monitors. I'll be totally honest with you guys. I love IShowSpeed. I love his involvement in WWE. I think he's just naturally charismatic and he's just an incredible fit for WWE. He honestly might be the next Logan Paul to transition from YouTuber to WWE superstar because this man definitely has the charisma and athletic prowess to pull it off. Elsewhere on Monday Night Raw, we saw this week Gunther return to attack Seth Rollins and set up a WrestleMania match which was made official, Seth Rollins versus Gunther. Guys, I don't know how I feel about this personally. I'm very conflicted about it. I think Seth versus Gunther would be a fantastic match. I think they would absolutely cook in the ring. I mean, you have two fantastic in-ring workers. I mean, obviously you're bound to get a good match. The problem I have is probably the problem that many of you have is you could see it a mile away. Like, this is obviously WWE's solution to both Seth Rollins and Gunther's planned opponents not being cleared for WrestleMania. This match was clearly thrown together because both men had nothing to do going into the show. And the big debate, I suppose, would be, do you leave them off the show because they don't have anything substantial to do, or do you include them on the card for the sake of including them on the card? And normally I would go with the former. I would say, even if it's the likes of Gunther and Seth Rollins, you have John Cena hosting WrestleMania. So at the very least, you could have gotten Gunther, maybe have an in-ring segment at WrestleMania with John Cena if you wanted to get him on the show. Maybe they could have done something impromptu, like Seth Rollins comes out as well and they do an impromptu match. I think that would have been pretty interesting. But I think rushing to kickstart a feud 3 weeks before WrestleMania with two guys who have no history together, absolutely have never interacted on television, don't have a story as of the making of this video as to why this match would be taking place. I think, honestly, if you're going to do a match with no build and no story, I'd rather it be impromptu. Maybe you do something like John Cena's in the ring, Gunther comes out, he cuts a promo, Seth Rollins comes out and, interrupts, And then Gunther and Seth get into it, and it turns out they have an impromptu match. A match that John Cena could make official even. Like John Cena, as the host of WrestleMania, could make the match. Seth Rollins versus Gunther. I think that would have been a much better way to put this together. But I guess we're going to have to see next week on Monday Night Raw kind of how the story develops and what creative comes up with in terms of the why. Why is this match happening? I think if you could use it as a catalyst for Gunther versus Brock Lesnar, and Gunther retiring Brock Lesnar with the whole Paul Heyman involvement, I think there's story to tell there. I think that would be interesting. Maybe you pull out the old favor storyline from last year at WrestleMania, except Gunther forces this one. He goes to Paul Heyman. He's like, I'm going to do you a favor. I'm going to take care of Seth Rollins for you. But in exchange, I want a favor. And that is, I want Brock Lesnar's career. Like, have Gunther go after Seth Rollins to help Paul Heyman, but in return, he wants his next career to kill from Paul Heyman, which is Brock Lesnar. I think that could be cool as well. WrestleMania does not always have to be the end of a story. It could be the start of one. So maybe that's what happens here too. But I'm sure they're going to have a fantastic match at WrestleMania. I'm sure the in-ring will be fantastic. It's just the story that's lacking. Elsewhere on Monday Night Raw, CM Punk and Roman Reigns continued their feud with another brawl. Honestly, I think that was a good direction for the feud. I think, honestly, if you get two incredible mic workers like Roman Reigns and CM Punk, even if you have two of the best mic workers in the game, the promos aren't going to be good if you run out of material. And I think genuinely CM Punk and Roman Reigns have run out of material. That became abundantly clear when Roman Reigns just resorted to calling CM Punk old. It's clear they've run out of material that they wanted to cover. So at that rate, I would rather them just do brawls, even though both of them are two of the best mic workers right now. I'd rather them do a brawl because that would be more entertaining than having them regurgitate the same stuff every single week, which I think honestly was weakening the feud. But at the same time, I mean, WWE is just spamming that break apart brawl button over the course of the road to WrestleMania. I feel like that's what most of these feuds are, is just nothing but break apart brawls, which is getting a little tiresome. I think the only feud that could honestly get away with doing pull apart brawls every single week until WrestleMania is either Stephanie Vaquera and Liv Morgan or Obafemi and Brock Lesnar. Everything else, I think they should come up with something interesting. Elsewhere this week on WWE, we have some more matches that have officially been announced for WrestleMania. The matches this week that officially got announced for WrestleMania is the Irresistible Forces defending the tag team titles against Charlexa, Bayley, and Lyra, and the Bella Twins in a fatal four-way match. Penta also announced that he will be defending his IC championship in a ladder match. So far, the participants include Rusev, Javon Evans, Dragon Lee, and JD McDonough. And of course, the match we already talked about being Gunther versus Seth Rollins. That was made official on Monday Night Raw. That's it from the Monday Night Raw side of things in terms of super noteworthy things. Let's go over to Friday Night SmackDown. Let's start with some of the highlights from SmackDown this week. We had Danhausen probably have the best segment of the night with The Miz during that tag team match. The stuff with R-Truth and the hot tag and accidentally cursing the ref. That was comedy gold. I absolutely loved it, and I think it's such the proper use for Danhausen. And I'm glad we got Danhausen out in the ring, not during a commercial break for once. Unfortunately, things don't get much better on the show from there. This week, we officially had the fallout for last week's debacle of Sami Zayn winning the Intercontinental Championship from Carmelo Hayes. A unanimously disproved decision. And the crowd in St. Louis agreed. They were booing the hell out of Sami Zayn. They did not want to see Sami Zayn. They were chanting, "We want Melo" at a certain point. And Carmelo Hayes and Sami Zayn actually had a rematch in the main event of SmackDown for the U.S. title. This was their opportunity, I think, to make this match into a triple threat if they were going to do it. But it doesn't look like they did it. Carmelo Hayes just ate another pin. and Sami Zayn retained the championship. Honestly, if you want my opinion, I don't think Sami Zayn and Trick Williams was a match that necessarily needed the United States Championship. I think it could have made it on the card without the title. I think it would be cool to maybe have a crowning moment for Trick at Mania, but I didn't want Sami Zayn to take that away from Carmelo Hayes. Honestly, I would have personally done a Iron Man match between Ilya Dragunov and Carmelo Hayes, or a 2 out of 3 falls match, something like that, because those have been the two workhorses of the entire division. But honestly, at this point, I would send Melo and Dragunov over to Monday Night Raw and enter the IC title ladder match. Have Melo say, screw this shit, I'm going over to Monday Night Raw and demanding a title match there. Like, if I'm going to get screwed on SmackDown, let me go to Raw and fight for the Intercontinental title in the ladder match. And have Dragunov join him. That way we can get both guys on the Mania card in a high-profile match, while not having to turn this Sammy Trick thing into a triple threat, where honestly Melo would just be a third wheel. This sucks. It sucks for Melo. It sucks for Dragunov. I'm hoping this leads to a Sammy heel turn, because there's really nowhere else to go from here. People just hate Sami Zayn. They're sick of seeing him. I didn't like this. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about the big angle. Randy Orton's mystery phone call has been revealed. Randy Orton spent multiple weeks on SmackDown and Raw talking on the phone to somebody, building up this mystery. Who on earth could it be that's on the phone filling Randy's head with these ideas? You had Stephanie McMahon show her face on Monday Night Raw and hype up this person that's in his ear, being like, this is dangerous, Cody. This is incredibly dangerous. Like, you need to step it up a gear. You don't know who's in Randy Orton's ear. And ladies and gentlemen, it's just Pat McAfee. If you guys follow me on TikTok, or you saw the short that I uploaded here, that was my raw reaction to seeing Pat McAfee. I was just dying laughing, which honestly is not the reaction you want from such a serious feud. And believe it or not, this is actually a polarizing decision, because I've been met with plenty of people who have defended the choice. And look, I know reports have come out to say that it's not the creative team, it's Ari Emanuel who made the decision, made the executive choice to have Pat McAfee inserted into the storyline. So you can't blame WWE Creative. And that's all well and good. But I can still criticize this decision. Sure, it wasn't Triple H's fault. Maybe it wasn't WWE Creative's fault. But, like, this is still a bad call. And somebody actually left a comment on my TikTok, said something like, well, what would you have preferred? Like, what would you have preferred instead? Which I think is such a stupid question, because let me answer that for you right now. I'm going to offer some alternatives that would be much better, but at the same time aren't incredibly unrealistic. Because I know there's always the unrealistic picks. People will say, like, oh, it's The Rock. Oh, it's Chris Jericho. Oh, it's one of the McMahons. Oh, it's Kevin Owens. Let me give you some realistic choices. You could do maybe Ethan Page and or Ricky Saints. Maybe do a Legacy 2.0 of some kind. That way you can kind of get them a lot of exposure before their NXT Championship match at Stand and Deliver. And maybe you could even have Cody show up at Stand and Deliver and cost Ricky Saints and or Ethan Page the championship match. That would get a lot of eyeballs on Stand and Deliver. And it would kickstart a new faction on Friday Night SmackDown on the main roster. Honestly, I think it would have been even cooler if you... Honestly, since he loves being on screen so much, I would have preferred Triple H. Have Triple H turn heel on screen and kind of reform Evolution and attack Cody Rhodes. Because if you listen to the stuff Pat McAfee was saying, he was saying like how we miss the Attitude Era. Cody is not the face of the company. Like, Randy's the prototypical wrestler. He should be the face of the company. He's what's best for business. Cody Rhodes is dragging down ratings. He's dragging down business. And, like, that's not necessarily bad promo material. But it makes absolutely no sense as to why Pat McAfee is saying it. Pat McAfee is a career comedy character. He's never been a character that's necessarily been taken seriously. He's always been there for the comedic moments. So to insert him in a very serious role into what is a blood feud, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I know Triple H can't wrestle because of, his heart issue, but he could be this evil authority figure. I think, that would be an interesting thing to bring back to TV, is like this evil authority figure that Triple H could portray. So I know this wasn't a WWE creative call. I know the powers that be kind of just decided, hey, Pat McAfee's the guy on the phone, make it work. And Triple H obviously is not the head honcho. He has bosses to listen to. So it makes sense why they ended up going with that, because they kind of had to. Their boss forced them to. So I realize there's nothing WWE could have done about that, but it's still incredibly unfortunate that Pat McAfee was the choice that was made. Overall, guys, I gotta say, not a good week for WWE. Not a good week for the road to WrestleMania. I think there is much to be desired still. I think the build to most everything was pretty weak. Obviously, the Cody and Randy feud, I think, just took a nosedive. Obafemi and Brock is a great feud. The tag title feud, honestly, I think has taken a nosedive. Same with Roman and Punk. I think a lot of these feuds are losing steam. Meanwhile, you have stuff like the Liv Morgan Stephanie Vaquer feud, which I think is actually gaining momentum despite their incredible lack of TV time, which is astounding. And like Jacob Fatu and Drew McIntyre. Jacob Fatu cut a phenomenal promo on Drew McIntyre this week on SmackDown. So while some of these feuds are really rising up the ranks and becoming really, really big and really, really important and really, really intriguing, your biggest matches are kind of just coming down the totem pole and nobody's excited for them anymore. Anyway, guys, that is your week in a review of WWE. Let me know if you enjoyed these videos. I will certainly make it into a regular series. And I will see you guys next week with brand new videos.